I work at an amusement park. Only half of the monsters here are paid actors. I should start off by explaining a couple things. Our park doesn't focus on one specific theme. We have 4 sections that are fenced off from one another. There's a spooky one, a western one, an old-timey Hollywood one, and one that looks like everything there is made of candy. We get a lot of visitors, mostly families and young couples. Every single one of us actors, the actual actors, is assigned to a specific one of the other things. The ones that aren't actors but pretend to be. Now, you might be wondering why a park would keep around non-human creatures that pose a potential threat to its visitors, and of course, you'd have to ask management for an exact answer. My best guess, however, is that they are in fact good employees. They don't need to be paid, look extremely real, and offer a way more authentic experience. Of course, the experience cannot be too authentic, if you catch my drift. That's what we, the actual actors, are here for. Every section has 2 actors and 2 of the other ones. We don't have a specific name for them, but we refer to them as pretenders, not actors or monsters most of the time. Our main objective is to keep the one we're assigned to under control. Make it seem like they're actors too, not strange beings we don't even know the origin of. Take my monster as an example. I work at the horror-themed section. That means my territory are the 2 funhouses, the larger of which is hospital-themed, the indoor roller coaster, and that other really cool outdoor one that winds around a gigantic skull. The roller coaster goes in through its mouth, comes out of one eye hole, and goes back in through the other. It's some genius design, really. I spend my day walking around in my costume, either chasing the visitors with my whip, which for clarification is part of my role, or leading it around by its chain that is attached to the iron collar around its neck. God help us if that thing ever comes off. The one I have been assigned to is tall, broad, and has black, surprisingly fluffy fur, a round, flat face, and 2 big ram horns on top of its head. Its eyes are 2 large, red buttons, and its mouth holds a set of long, shiny, sharp fangs. Its tongue usually hangs out of its maw, black drool dripping down from it constantly. Its official name is Mr. Scratch on account of its oversized claws, but I call it the sock puppet. Mr. Scratch is quite obviously a costume. He moves sluggishly, and there are even seams and stitchings to be seen in some places. The costume itself, however, is a living, breathing thing. You wouldn't know if you just see it walk around by my side. I, however, found out pretty soon, on my first day actually. When they told me they had given me the acting job because of my physical strength and that they needed me to take care of a monster of sorts, I was dumbfounded. Then again, my job interview had included questions like, would you describe yourself as relatively fearless? And if you were to get attacked by a wild animal, would you A. fend it off, B. run for your life and call for help, or C. hide? So the warning signs were there. But of course, my first reaction was disbelief, which by the way was replaced with stern, cold realization in record time on the day I started working my acting job. My manager Dale, a grumpy, douchey guy in his late 20s, had me dress up in the costume I have been wearing nearly every day for 3 years now. It's hard to describe, kind of like a goth monster hunter outfit which comes with a whip, but it looks really fancy and is agreeably comfortable. He had then led me to a large cage in the horror-themed section. It was standing next to the bigger funhouse. Its door was held shut by a chain with an oversized lock on it. The sign above it read Mr. Scratch in big, twisted red letters. Dale unloaded the large plastic bag he had been carrying from his shoulder and threw it onto the ground in front of me. You'll find a lamb shank and the metal leash in there, he said curtly, nodding at the bag. A lamb shank? I inquired. Dale gave me a sleazy, yellow-teethed grin. We found out it likes lamb, he replied, as if that explained anything at all. He took out a small key from his pocket and walked over to the cage. I'll let it out for you, but just this once so you can tame it. Once you've gotten that over with, I'll give you the key. Won't be wasting any more of my time doing your job then. Part of me still thought he was messing with me, but I was beginning to have my doubts. He proceeded towards the cage and turned his key inside the lock. The door sprang open with a creaking noise and Dale stepped aside. At first, nothing happened. Then, from the part of the cage that had not yet been reached by the sparse early morning sunlight, the thing they called Mr. Scratch emerged. It exited the cage at a slow, menacing pace on all fours, but once it was outside, it rose to its hind legs and raised its head, slowly opening its mouth only for its long, gooey tongue to drop out. I stared at the moving costume, then at Dale. I was very close to losing my composure. Are you kidding? I asked. Tell that idiot in the costume to cut the crap. If you guys think you can mess with the new one. But the look on Dale's face was serious. He almost seemed a bit frightened. "Feed it," he hissed. "Feed it and then put on the leash." I shook my head and rolled my eyes, but decided to play along. I bent down and picked up the plastic bag, produced the large lamb shank from inside and waved it at the moving costume. "Come and get it," I sang, feeling immensely stupid for talking to a person like I would to a dog. The thing came bounding towards me at a surprising speed and ripped the shank out of my hand. When its teeth sank naturally into the meat and I watched the creature tear it to shreds and gobble it down, I realized that I was not looking at a person in a costume. Gripped by a sudden boldness, I slowly took a few steps towards it, reached out and let my palm travel over its shiny black fur. It was warm. I could feel its chest rise and fall and the muscles underneath its skin pulsing, moving. I was staring at the thing with wide eyes, not believing what I was seeing. Finally, I sprang back into action and picked up the leash from the bag. I attached it to the metal choker and, after making sure I had a good grip on it, gave it an experimental pull. The beast's head jerked towards me and I stumbled backwards in shock, but quickly managed to regain my footing. Luckily, the thing still seemed to be more interested in its meal than in me. Dale came strolling over and gave me a pat on the shoulder, which for the record is the only friendly gesture I've ever gotten from him. He handed me the key for Mr. Scratch's cage and told me to make sure not to lose it. I later asked him jokingly if the creature had ever attacked any of its other caretakers, to which he let out a loud laugh before answering in a suddenly quite serious tone, "No. With one exception. Being." I offered. Dale laughed once again before adding, "Just the guy before you. He was good at his job, but we had to let him go. You can't be the monster tamer if both your legs are missing." Upon seeing my startled expression, he smirked and told me not to let it get to me. He was sure Mr. Scratch liked me better. He's most certainly not reading this, so I feel safe here when I say that Dale's an asshole. In regards to the monster, I've already mentioned that I've taken to calling him the sock puppet. After reading my description of him, I bet you can see where I'm coming from. The sock puppet and I are on pretty good terms, by the way. He's never really caused me any problems. I usually walk him around the park and sometimes let him dash forward to jump scare a visitor, only to then pull him back and hiss at the visitor not to get too close to him. That's our favorite trick. He's run off on me twice before, but those are stories for another day. All in all, Mr. Scratch and get along pretty well. Too bad you can't say that about some of the other actors and their pretenders. When talking about my coworkers, I guess it only makes sense to start with the one who works in the same part of the park as me. That would be Darius. He's very nice, but easily stressed. He talks a lot about wanting another job, but either that's just an empty phrase of his or he hasn't found one, because he's still around after 3 years of me working here. I met him on my second day on the job. Of course, Dale had failed to introduce me to any of my colleagues. He had simply given me a short overview about who I was yet to meet and what I was to expect. He hadn't put very much effort into his explanation. I was on my to Mr. Scratch's cage in the early morning about half an hour before the park's opening time that day. I was already dressed up and ready to release the sock puppet, carrying with me the metal leash and a bag of dog treats, both of which I dropped when I collided with the man in the doctor's outfit who had seemingly come out of nowhere. By his fake blood-smeared lab coat and the surgical face mask dangling around his neck, I determined him to be another actor. "Hey! I'm Darius. You must be the new tamer," he stammered, and without giving me time to answer, added, "I really need your help right now." "Okay," I responded, taken aback. "What's going on? Did Dale already tell you about them?" he asked and I nodded. He seemed relieved. "Oh, thank God. Okay, so, I have to watch out for one myself. She's like a zombie nurse, hard to describe, but you'll know when you see her. Either way, we can't really put her on a leash like Scratch, so we let her roam around this part of the park freely. Under my supervision, of course. But I kind of lost track of her and now I don't know where she is. We can't have her stroll around the kid-friendly sections or the visitors will freak out. You've got to help me, please, we don't have much time." I abandoned the leash and dog treats and the two of us got on our way. Darius told me he had already looked for her in our section, so she had to be in one of the others. Our first guess was the Hollywood one since it was pretty much right next to ours. While we did not find her there, Darius made use of our time by informing me about the workings of the park in a bit more detail. All the non-actors are put into cages overnight to keep them from wandering off. Half an hour before opening time, they're being let out. He also told me a few bits about some of the other monsters, but said it would be best for me to find out myself. We didn't pass any on our way through the Hollywood section, but we did find the nurse. Am I a bad person? It was in the middle of the pandemic, and I was lonely. I had no friends, no family in the area, nothing. Until I found him. It was an advertisement on Facebook, right after a photo of a friend who recently got married. Lonely? Need someone to talk to? My Robot 5.0 is here to help. Click the button below to learn more about our free trial. A robot? I had been seeing more advertisements and articles about artificial intelligence recently. But I had no idea that they've released robots for consumers yet. And did they have previous models I didn't know about? I clicked the button. In the frequently asked questions section, I was able to find out that the robot was a perfect AI companion. It could react and interact with people as if it had real thoughts and feelings. And it knew how to show emotions as if it had emotions, too. I scrolled through the reviews quickly, trying to find any negative reviews. The majority of the top comments were all 5-star reviews. I finally reached one that only had a single star. Horrible product. I purchased this for my son a couple of months ago thinking it would be a fun toy for him to play with. But something about it is too real. It seems so much more lifelike than I ever could have imagined. My son is too close to it. I'm going to try to get rid of it. I read the review several times, trying to find out if this was supposed to be a bad review or a good one. It kind of sounded like the product was working how they advertised. My heart sank at the price. It was nearly $1,000. As a single person renting an apartment alone, it was hard to justify the cost. But I did it. The website promised a 30-day no questions asked return policy. I confirmed the order, and moments later a notification beeped on my phone. Your package is on its way. Please wait 3 to 5 business days for delivery. Thank you for trusting in our company. On the day that my package was supposed to arrive, my robot was all I could think of. Work dragged on for hours, and I kept glancing at my clock. There was just a few more hours left of work. Hey Khalil, how are things going? When I looked up to my computer screen, I saw a few eyes staring back at mine from the Zoom meeting. You seem a little distracted. We still have a few hours left of work, so I need you to be completely focused. Yes, sir. Sorry. When work finally ended, I slammed my laptop shut. When I opened my bedroom door, I hear a clanging on the ground from the kitchen. Was someone else here? I slowly walked around to the kitchen, seeing a man standing in the middle of my kitchen. I watched him for a few moments, trying to figure out who he was and what was going on. I was worried, but all he was doing was unloading the dishwasher into the cabinets. The cabinets even looked a lot cleaner now than they did the day before. Excuse me? His head jerked around and I could finally see what he looked like. He looks perfect. His short, dark black hair curled at the ends. I could see the definition in his arms, and his gray shirt tightly hugged his chest. His deep hazel eyes looked back into mine. Oh, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't scare you. When you ordered me, you chose the self-setup option. I thought it would be okay if I started cleaning. You're my robot? He smiled and nodded. Yes, but you can call me whatever you wish. Do you want to register my robot as my name? No. Do you have a name of your own? He shook his head. We are made to order, and designed to look appealing to customers based on the information given. You are my first interaction besides quality control. You can choose to call me whatever you wish. How about Aaron? Does that sound good? Aaron registered. Is there anything else you require of me right now? Or shall I continue with the dishes? No, that's all for now. I sat at the table, watching Aaron work on putting away the dishes. It was weird to watch him immediately go to work, but it was kind of nice not having to deal with all of them. Especially right after work. So, Aaron, tell me about yourself. What exactly can you do? I am an AI programmed to learn from you. I am here to assist you with whatever needs you have, but I am also programmed to be a companion to you. Listen to your needs, listen to your problems, help in any way that I can. Do you have real emotions and everything? I am programmed to show emotion. For a lot of the night, we got to talking. Mostly it was me talking about my work and complaining about my coworkers, but Aaron listened intently. I spent some time talking about my ex-boyfriend. He just left. Without saying anything to me. At all. I don't understand, we were so in love. We were made for each other, and he couldn't see it. I'm sorry, he sounds like he hurt you a lot. Do you know why he left? If you don't mind me asking you, that is. It's fine. I don't know, I was perfect. I was always there for him, making sure that he had everything he needed. He nodded. A couple of years ago, he had a trip to visit his parents back home. He packed for days, making sure that he had everything with him. But I found his phone, and I thought he must have forgotten to take it with him. You know what I did? I looked through his phone, found his parents' contact information and where they lived, and I drove it all the way to his parents' house. Just to drop his phone off to him. And when I got there, he wasn't thankful. Him and his whole family, they tried to keep me away from him. Wow. And how does that make you feel? Angry. I've spent half of my life taking care of him. I've spent so much of me on him, and that's how he ended up treating me. Who knows what he told his family to make them hate me so much? I slammed my fist against the table, catching him off guard. I'm sorry. No, do not be sorry. As I said, I was programmed to be a perfect companion to you. You are welcome to act in whatever way you wish to, and I will always support you. No matter what. If only everyone else were like him. Well, it looks like it's getting pretty late. I have to wake up early for a meeting. I looked around the empty living room. Since I moved there, I didn't have a chance to furnish the place yet. Sorry, I don't really have a place for you to sleep, here. Are you going to be okay? He smiles. Do not worry about me, as a robot, I do not require any sleep. I will clean and you will sleep. Even after living with Aaron for months and seeing him every single day, I never got tired of him. He always knew how to listen and knew exactly what to say to make me feel better. You know, they are requiring us to start going back in person next week, so that means you'll be alone for periods of time. Is that okay with you? Of course, there is always lots of work to be done here at home. My phone rings from a notification. What is wrong? It's Peter. He's asking when he can come by to pick up his stuff that he left here. But I have to go to work today. Do you think you can stay here and wait for him? Of course I can. Work dragged on today. Even though it was supposed to be our first day fully in person, our boss wasn't there. His personal friends he hired weren't there either. What a hypocrite. By the time I got back home, it was already dark out. But I noticed that there was a pair of shoes in the front that didn't look familiar. They looked like Peter's. Aaron? Are you home? He popped his head out from the bathroom and smiled back at me. Yes, I'm just cleaning up. When I walked over to the doorway of the bathroom, I didn't notice how clean it was. All I noticed was Peter's body in the bathtub. Aaron's in the middle of severing one of his arms from his body. What's going on? What happened? He caused you so much grief, so much hurt. I can't let anything like that happen. I can't let anyone hurt you. You did this for me? He nodded. Always. I'm programmed to learn from you and support you in any way. He stepped forward towards me, reaching a hand up to my face. His hand brushes against my cheek. Even though it feels warm, the touch leaves a chilling feeling against my skin. He seems so happy and caring. But all I feel is fear. Now, how was work today? I didn't know how to respond, and I told him I needed some time to myself first. He's cleaning the living room right now, and now I'm writing to you to ask for your help. I realize I should probably call someone, but I just can't. What am I supposed to do?